and of course Tara as well. So thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here. I like to do, it may sound odd, but I like to do security presentations. I shared with a little breakout room that I did grow up in Brooklyn, New York, and I believe that sort of, had a lot to do with why I like cybersecurity and why I'm very passionate about it. I was not only 6'5", 200 some odd pounds. I was beat up frequently in the slums of Brooklyn, and had to run for my life at times, and sort of develop that sixth sense, or that spidey sense that to know, always be precautious, always be looking. My family calls me paranoid, and they're not wrong, except I do know that they are out to get me. And so maybe it isn't full paranoia, but that background has made me be able to understand and learn cybersecurity. And then the other thing I really like doing is not just learning it. That's fine, but sharing and helping groups like this, and hopefully individuals like all of you, take simple steps that you can do to secure your data. And I'm going to mainly talk company stuff, but a lot of the lessons I'm going to talk about are stuff that can be taken from a personal perspective as well. And so I like, helping people through that, and that's what my company does. Is we deal a lot with technology support, we deal a lot with cybersecurity consulting, and just trying to make sure that, sort of like what Erin was saying, she just failed the other week. Teaching people, doing some phishing simulations, and we do that so that we can educate. It's not so we can, slap people on the wrist and say you failed. Well, no, it's so we can educate and just say, here are things that you should look for. And so we'll at times do seminars, typically hour-long type things where we walk you through how to spot phishing emails and attacks like that. But a few things as far as why this is important, if it was Tara or Erin was saying, as far as it's very timely. The problem right now, and it's getting worse, but if I was one of the bad threat actors, I would know who you are, I would know where you live, I would know your address, your age, your children's names, if you're married, your maiden's name, your maiden name. I'd know where you went to high school, so if you're Madison, whether you're a West is best, East is least. I'd know your mascot, a Reggie Regent or a Spartan, where you went to college. A lot of Go Badgers, alumni associations. I'd probably know most of your usernames, some of your passwords. I'd know your driver's license number. I would happen to know your credit card, most of your credit card numbers, if not all of the digits, at least the last 4. I'd know your passwords, and I'm not just talking the passwords that start with Badgers or Packers, or for those of you Vikings and Bears fans. I'd know your pets' names, and I'd also probably know who you're going to vote for tomorrow. All this is because of social media and other hacks. But the scariest of all for a lot of us is I would also know what you ate for breakfast today. I'd know your height, and I'd know your weight. How would I know those last 3? Well, MyFitnessPal was recently hacked about a year and a half ago. Most people have not changed their password since then. So all that data, if you use MyFitnessPal or some of those other services, is publicly available for anyone who wants. So a little bit of a tip, what they're going to be talking about is change your passwords when sites that you use are compromised. So the problem is, if I know all of that about you, either from your Facebook, from your LinkedIn, from a site that's been hacked, from your email that may have been compromised, what can you do about it? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to tell you what can you do to protect yourself so that the threat actors can't get more information about you, and so your company laptops, your company data, your personal stuff is protected and just yours. So I've got 10 things that I think you need to do, and most of them are pretty simple. There are some that may involve your IT department, but most are things that you can do just on your own. I'm going to talk through it. I have time at the end for Q&A. If there's something you need to break in, that's fine as well. I think everyone's muted. I don't know that for sure. But if you need me to talk a little more, great. I can certainly do that. But at the end, there'll be plenty of time for Q&A at the end as well. And why do people want all this information? It's not that they hate you, although they may. It has to do with the fact that they want money. Social security numbers, you can sell them on the dark web. Credit cards, you can sell them on the dark web. HIPAA, PI information, you can sell on the dark web. And that's why people want your information. Why do they want to encrypt your machines with what's called ransomware? Well, because they can then hopefully force you to pay them a ransom. Maybe, $700-800 if it's just one machine. It could be thousands of dollars for a small network. It could be tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands for bigger networks. And so that is the primary reason that a lot of the cybersecurity, issues are taking place. It's a simple matter of they want your money. And so because of that, what can you do to protect yourself? Well, first of all, if you're on a laptop and you're at Starbucks, don't connect to that network. There's a good chance that it's not Starbucks, or there's a good chance there's a bad actor on it. There are things called honeypots. It's very simple. You can look it up online. 5 minutes. Even someone non-technical should be able to set up a honeypot. And what a honeypot does is it pretends to be Starbucks or Hilton Garden, Picket, any public network. It can have the same name. And when you connect to that fake wireless network, 100% of your traffic can be seen by whoever put up that fake network. And so if you don't know whose network you're on, be very careful about connecting. One of the exceptions is if you have a company VPN. So for those of you who are, who work for companies where you have company laptops, please, 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 always, always, always use the company VPN. There's never a matter of, oh, I'm just going to check email. Oh, I need to post this to Facebook. Oh, my boss needs this really quickly. It doesn't matter. The problem is, all it takes is, one way in, and then a hacker's in your network. So only connect to known and trusted wireless networks. Here's something that you can definitely do in the office and as well as for personal computers. Always, 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 always run Windows updates, and have, for those of you who are Mac users, run the iSecurity updates. Occasionally, there are bad updates. Apple actually pushed one out a week and a half ago. It messed up the ability to print to HP printers. That's very rare. Microsoft has pushed them out, and that's caused issues as well. Typically, the patches that are pushed out, Microsoft pushes them out monthly. Apple typically pushes them out monthly. The item that they're fixing is much more important to fix than the chance of you having an issue. You'd be amazed at the high percent of number of some of the issues from like the Target breach from 3 years ago to a lot of the newer ones. A lot of those issues are caused because a patch wasn't installed or wasn't correctly installed. And these are patches that are well known. We as a company, we push out patches every week to our clients, and occasionally we do a little bit more if there's a critical update that just came out. Why? Because that secures your data, that secures your network. So always, always, always use the Windows and Mac updates. For those of you in corporate environments, that should be handled and managed and automated with people looking at the logs weekly and or monthly. So that's the second thing, is always run Windows and Mac updates. Third thing, and this includes for you home people, have what's called a next generation antivirus installed. What does next generation mean? So there's a lot of security products that say, I'm next generation this, I'm next generation that. What it really means is that they can look at applications. Years ago, 5, 10 years ago, it was enough to have Symantec or McAfee, antivirus, and you were in pretty good shape. Well, the problem is, while the applications have gotten better and can do more, so have the ability for the threat actors to do more. And so you need more than just standard antivirus. A next generation antivirus, which more and more are becoming, give you the ability to what's called deep learn or machine learning. It involves, some of the better ones are getting to artificial intelligence, where they are looking for changes that shouldn't be there, and they're able to stop threats. So as a side note, not only do you need to have a really good next generation antivirus for your Windows and Mac, It used to be Macs didn't need them. Macs need them. You also need to have additional security software as well. Those are things that you should make sure you're protecting. Things like DNS protection, some advanced endpoint security. For those of you who are compliant, HIPAA, PCI, NIST is coming for everyone. You should think about logging and someone actually looking at your antivirus to respond to your threats. But at a minimum, pay for a next generation antivirus. What's included when you buy a new laptop is typically a scaled back version or just a eval version. Not good enough. You need to protect yourself. And like Windows updates, make sure it's always updated. Typically, a lot of them will just update automatically. Some will update daily. All right, here's a biggie. I would ask for you to raise your hands, but I don't know if this is being recorded and you may not want to. How many of you have passwords that start or include badgers or packers? Don't do that. I saw at least one smile, so that's probably one person who does. So a couple of things with don't share your password. Use reasonable, try not to use dictionary words with passwords as well. So this is more of just a couple tips and tricks with password management. Don't share them. Don't use badgers 1. Don't use password 1. Do not use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are some of the most common passwords out there. And when someone finds your username or your email address, it takes hackers, because they're using programs, they're using databases, a short amount of time, under minutes, to try some of those, high probability passwords. Use a phrase if you want. Yes, ma'am.
Kevin, can I ask a question about software programs like 1Password that is supposed to house all your passwords?
Yeah, I was just going to that. Yes.
Okay.
So what Tara said, there's a program called, which one? 1Password, right? That's the one you use? Yep.
Yeah.
1Password is very good. LastPass, Password Boss, KeyPass. Use a program like that to store your passwords. For most of those, you can get for free. Even if you're in a company, you can get them for free. We have paid versions for some of our clients, but that's where they need to share passwords and someone having administrative control over all of that. But you can get by with a free password manager. And what that can do is you only have to remember one password or a couple passwords, and that password manager, it can be on your phone. So I've got a password manager on my phone. So whenever I have to go to a website, I just click it. I have to enter my master password, and then it enters a password into my, my bank, my payroll, my benefits, or my email, anything like that. And so you don't have to remember hundreds of passwords. You don't have to put them on the yellow or orange sticky and put them under your your keyboard because you think no one's going to look there, or have on your monitor. You'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, how many clients that we go and we see someone's password written on a piece of paper stuck to the monitor. It's better not to have a password almost at that point. So, use common sense when thinking passwords, but yeah, use, like Tara said, use one of the free password managers. Don't share them with people. All right, here's something that Erin talked about. Get some cybersecurity training. This is a example email that I got that is fake. I highlighted in red, and I'm not going to go through it all. The three things, or three of the main things that are wrong with this email. Again, I mentioned, I think at the beginning, we do an hour presentation on phishing training, and that's something that we've done for other groups, and where we talk about how to spot spam and phishing emails. The biggest thing I like to say is it's similar to what we're being taught now with COVID. One of the best ways to prevent, not only that infection, but just being healthy and safe is wash your hands for 20 seconds. Well, I like to say, read an email for 20 seconds before you click on a link. So before you see that you've won $10,000 and click on that link there, well, see if that's correct. Most cybersecurity incidents are done because of a user error. That doesn't mean that someone did something intentionally. It's they clicked on something, they didn't think, they saw that it came from someone they knew, and it didn't. And so that's why companies like what Aaron was talking about do cybersecurity phishing simulation, because we want to train and then we educate things to look through. So please, please, please make sure you get some training, and also turn your brain on when you're looking at emails. Don't just go through really quickly like that. No one needs 50 Amazon gift cards within the next hour to give to your employees. That's a common scam going around that we've had clients almost fall for.
My team almost fell for that.
So think about it. Exactly. We've had clients almost fall for that. But part of it is you want to please and you want to do it immediately. Well, take that 20 seconds. So training, get some training. All right, here's a biggie. I'm just going to the bathroom. I'm going to go to the break room. I don't need to lock my computer. Yes, you do. You should. What happens if there's a fire and you have to leave the building? What happens if you forget or get called into someone's office? For those of you who work in legal or compliant environments, you have legal responsibilities to lock your computer. You know, if you have HIPAA issues or PCI, you can have major exposure if you don't lock your computer. The second IT job I ever had, and this was started in 1996, it was for a state agency. Whenever we saw anyone's computer unlocked, we would do one of two things. We would send an email to everyone, which was hundreds of people in IT, and we either put a resignation letter from that person, or we invited everyone out to dinner and drinks. It only took that to happen once to each person for them to learn the lesson. But it's serious, because if you work in HR, all of your HR is exposed. Whatever your responsibilities are, if you leave your computer for a minute to two, anyone can get to it who shouldn't. It's not necessarily a bad actor, maybe someone within the company who shouldn't have access to your data. Payroll, passwords, budgetary, things like that. And so those are things that you need to, you know, always lock. I talked about this one when I talked about the phishing simulation and education. Don't click on unknown links or attachments. We have a client that before they became a client of ours, they lost over $100,000 because one of their email accounts got compromised. And so their largest accounts receivable sent a check elsewhere and they were not able to recover. I think it was about $127,000. Think of that loss that is not covered by the bank. So for those of you in corporate environments, whether you're Gmail or Office 365, hopefully your company has secured your environment. So there are ways to protect yourself from some of the links, from some of the attachments. But this is also good from a home perspective. Don't click on something that's unknown. If you get an email from Amazon that says, "Congratulations, we've processed your refund. You know, click here to claim your $30 credit." Well, if you didn't do that, don't click on it. That's part of that 20 seconds. But don't click on unknown links. Don't click on open attachments if you're not sure. You can always just go to the website of Amazon.com, log into your account, and check if you got a credit. Once you click on that link or open that attachment, that's when the bad stuff happens. This is more for corporate. Encrypt sensitive emails and data. Some of you work in environments where you have to. And so, you know, Gmail and Office 365 have the abilities to encrypt. Sometimes you have to encrypt because you don't want certain people to see personnel things. It could be budgetary things. It could just be company policy. Sometimes it deals with social security numbers, credit cards, or you just don't want the wrong party to be able to see it. So again, this is more of a corporate thing, but there are times that you need to encrypt. There are ways that you can make it so it automatically encrypts when it sees a certain, you know, if you will, a social security 1, 2, 3, you know, and then 2 numbers and then 4 numbers. There are ways to do that as well but manually encrypt when it's company policy. All right, here's a biggie. Hopefully, and you know, you can raise your hands if you want. How many of you use multi-factor or MFA at work? Good. The ones I see, there's at least over 50%. You should. It's becoming, almost every site now has the ability to do this. Your email should do this. Your bank should do this. Almost any site you go to should offer multi-factor authentication. What multi-factor authentication is typically, it's an app on your cell phone that's going to give you a new 4, 6, or 8-digit code. That's something you have. So something you know would be your password. And so when you enter your password, you have to enter in another password. A lot of people think it's a pain to do that. You're right, it is a pain to do that. We had a client about 2 months ago over a weekend. We had just implemented some multi-factor, and we saw a hack attempt from China that was stopped because of the CFO, had multi-factor enabled. So this stops the bad actors of getting into your accounts, of getting into your bank accounts, of getting into your email. One of the biggest threats that's happening actually to the technology industry right now is companies impersonating companies like ours. So whether you have an internal help desk or you have an outsourced tech company like us, they should do some sort of two-factor authentication when you call to change a password. That way, if someone calls pretending to be Joe at 4:55 on a Friday afternoon to change your email password, you have to make sure it is Joe, by something that Joe would have on his cell phone. Otherwise, they would have unfettered access to his email for the weekend and a whole lot of loss. Multi-factor authentication is almost everywhere. The last thing, number 10, and this is easier for corporate environments, but there are ways that you can do it with like a LifeLock and personal as well. Monitor the dark web for compromised accounts and passwords. So the dark web is actually bigger in traffic and what's stored than the regular internet. You have to have special browsers, and ways to get on it. But there's a whole lot of bad information there. There's some stuff that's not illegal. Some people just don't want it to be searchable by the Googles of the world. But a lot of what goes on in the dark web is illegal. It's selling, credentials. Unfortunately, a lot of the trafficking of people happens there as well. But credentials can be sold for under $1. And so a lot of companies will monitor the dark web, and when they see a account, like I mentioned, MyFitnessPal, when they see someone's email and password, they can then tell you, and then you can change it. The first time we ever started doing this for clients was about, I think about 4 years ago. And the first client we talked to, we did a scan. We found the administrator password for a major hospital system. They signed up that day for our service. That was a major HIPAA violation if that hadn't been taken care of. And so these should be automated. And so a lot of what I talked about up front, where like I know where you are, I know what you ate for breakfast, your height, your weight, all of those are things that when the site is compromised and it becomes public, I have access, I and the bad actors have access to your passwords. When we do these in person, and I know in advance who's going to be there, we do a dark web scan on all those companies, and I have a handout where I give people their passwords. It's very eye-opening. So please, please, please have your company's dark web scanned. That is something that we typically charge $99 for. None of you are clients, so you're looking to profit off of this. If you're not sure if your company or even your personal email is compromised, reach out to me. Tara has my contact info. We'll do that complimentary. We can securely get you all your information. This is not a sales pitch here, so we're just doing this, for the education side of things. But typically we find dozens, if not hundreds of passwords over the last 3 years where our scans do. But please monitor the dark web. And when a compromise happens, because it's going to happen, it's not going to be your fault. That's when you change your password. So it prevents a lot of the items I talked about in the first part as far as all the I knows. So those are the top 10 things, and I went through really quickly. I will provide a PDF so that Aaron or Tara can send it out if desired, which lists some of the top things that you can do. But I've got about 4 minutes left for any questions that people may have.